Two Witches of the Moon. I think it just started, so I'm just saying it again. Welcome back to Witches of the Moon, everyone. I am your Monday hostess, Natalie, and I'm kicking off this week, which is our herb week. Today, I am covering Angelica root. As you can guess, we use the root of the plant. I do want to state here, and this applies to all of the videos that you will see this week, these videos are intended for informational purposes only. These are some ways in which I personally have used these herbs. I will tell you that this is not a substitute for a licensed physician's medical advice or help, and I do not recommend, none of us recommend, that you use or take any herbal remedies without consulting with your standard physician first, okay? Herbal remedies and herbs can be very useful, both magically and medicinally, but they do have effects, interaction effects, just as medications do. If you are taking regular medications, especially for antidepressants and antipsychotics, some of these herbs can have very negative effects with that. So please, 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 do not try to self-medicate. Do consult with your doctor or naturopath before utilizing any of these things medicinally. That being said, I am going to provide some information today that talks not just about the magical uses of this herb, but also some of the medicinal uses, both in history and current. Okay, that being said, I am covering Angelica root. This is Angelica root. I'm hoping it'll kick in and be a little clearer. Try to take it out. As you can see, I was too lazy to make a label the last time I bought it. I just stuck the bag to the side of the jar, which was sticky. So this is Angelica root. Now, Scott Cunningham, I know a lot of you are groaning and rolling your eyes, but Scott did a lot of extensive research on herbs and that sort of thing. Real quick, I do want to make a note. As you can see, I am in my office today. I'm not at home. The air in the office is out, and they needed somebody to be here today so that they could get the part that needs to be fixed and check the system. The last time I checked the thermostat, it's 98 degrees in here. So I have both doors of my office wide open. Dun, 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 and it is hotter than Hades in here. So please forgive me if I look a little peaked and sweaty. I'm trying not to sweat all of my makeup off. It is so warm in here. Anyhow, Scott Cunningham did a lot of research on herbs and that sort of thing, and has written several books on herbs, herbal remedies, and that sort of thing. One of the sources that I refer to is his book called Magical Herbalism. He has another one called the Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. In that, he lists the characteristics of Angelica as being a masculine herb associated with the element of fire. It's associated with the deity of Venus, which seems odd to me because Venus is feminine, but whatever. And it's typically used in exorcism and protective types of magic. However, it has many, many uses. And when you look at Llewellyn's big book of correspondences, there were 42 plus, I think, let me check my notes here, 42 plus references in that book to the use of Angelica and its correspondences. So some of the things it's good for is acceptance of a situation, to have, cultivate, or extend acceptance in some way, either of a situation, of a person, of a belief, whatever. It's used for attraction. It's used for balance and harmony. It's used for beauty, beginnings, binding things as in with an oath, not binding as in like I'm binding you, although it can be used for that as well in terms of binding things that are no longer useful to you. Community, consecration, spirit work, self-help, intuition, insight, healing. It's a very, very, very flexible herb. We do utilize the root, that's why it's called Angelica root of the plant, and it has a lot of properties that are good for like dream work and spirit work. So when I use Angelica, I'm actually going to be doing kind of a big working with two other witches. And I don't want to talk a lot about it because I think when you talk a lot about your magical workings, it kind of decreases the power. It allows for people to consciously or subconsciously kind of interfere with your work. But I will say that we are utilizing Angelica root in a poppet and to help bind a lot of negativity and darkness that surrounds a specific person, banishing it. and getting it away from this person and allowing them to grow. And Angelica is very good for all of those things. It can be used to bind negative energies and banish them out. It is used a lot in spiritual work and self-help work, growth and harmony, cultivating friendships, maintaining friendships. So it brings a sense of harmony and balance and peace to your life, which is how it also helps with some of the spiritual work. When I use Angelica, I like to use it a lot in an herbal concoction that I'm hoping to pause this and not stop it entirely. But I am going to gather up a few more materials and just kind of show you at the end of this video a loose incense that I create using Angelica and a few other herbs that I will list for you in divination work, because it is used for divination spiritual work. I like to use it as a loose incense, especially around Samhain when the veil is thin, to really boost my connection to spirit and ancestors. Now, some of the medicinal uses for Angelica, I refer to Culpeper. A lot of you are familiar with Nicholas Culpeper. If you're not, he was a writer back in, I think, the 1300s or the 1100s, a long time ago. He was an herbalist who was self-educated, did a ton of research, was very well respected, and he wrote a rather comprehensive book on herbs in England and their uses and so forth. He practiced for many, many years and had a strong clientele, saw through the Black Plague and that sort of thing. So Culpeper specifically states that, and I'm going to quote him here, it is good against poisons, pestilent airs, and the pestilence itself. And he makes that specification that it's like drunk in a treacle kind of mixture. 1/2 drachm of the powdered root with a full drachm of treacle. If you couldn't get the treacle, he said you can use a whole drachm of the root distilled within, one full drachm, an equal amount basically of distilled water, and it could be drunk. He says it is good for stomach ailments and ailments such as pleurisy. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with the term pleurisy, it is spelled P-L-E-U-R-I-S-Y. Pleurisy is an inflammation of the tissues around the lungs and the bronchioles. So he's saying it's good for stomach things, labor pains. My favorite was, and I'll quote again, good for expelling wind within the body. Yes, folks, it'll make you fart. So basically, it's drunk with wine or put into a vinegar and smelled, like distilled into a vinegar. Another use that Culpeper talks about, excuse me, and again, this may be something you want to use on your way to the hospital, you know, but you can try it and hopefully it'll stay until you get to the hospital. But he says, and I will quote again here, that the root made into plaster with a little pitch and placed on the bite of a mad dog or other venomous animal does wonderfully. So again, I would not just rely on a little pitch and Angelica root to fight off that rabies bite. If I were you, I would get yourself to a hospital and get that checked out, but maybe that will help on the way to the hospital. Same thing with any kind of venomous animal, and around here we have a lot of those. We have, we have insects that are poisonous around here. We have snakes around here that are poisonous. Not too many, but there are a few. We have water moccasins. We have rattlesnakes, and we have copperheads. And copperheads particularly are the ones to watch out for because they are not very aggressive, but they're very good at hiding, and you won't know it's there till you're on it and it's on you. Water moccasins, number 2, they're very aggressive, and rattlesnakes are the least. They'll try to warn you off before they'll actually bite. But if you surprise them, they can be a force to reckon with. I'm sorry, it's so hot in here, folks. So Angelica is kind of a good all-purpose herb. I'm going to take this off, and hopefully you can, but hopefully you can see that a little bit clearer. Maybe if I take it out or kind of bend the camera down a little. It's just kind of a yellowish color. It's a loose herb. It's got almost a sweet smell, almost a kind of a basil-y smell to it, but it's a little bit yellower, and I get mine from a shop in Fort Worth. They usually have it, but you can order it on Amazon. It's widely available, so it's a pretty decent little herb. So I'm going to gather up a few more materials and kind of show you a little thing that, oh, I didn't forget one thing. I don't remember if it was, oh, it was Scott Cunningham who mentions that it was used, if you use it in a bath, it will relieve or remove hexes or curses placed on you. He also said it was carried by Native Americans for luck in gambling. Don't know how true that is. I haven't had a chance to research that or ask any of my Native American friends about it. Didn't see anything in any of my books on Native Americans about it, but, you know, Scott did a lot of research, so who knows. He also said that if you smoke it, it causes visions. So, pardon me one moment. How they know I'm doing these videos, I do not know. My deepest apologies for that interruption. But it did give me an opportunity to go and grab the other ingredients that I use in this loose incense. So, as stated in the video, the number one ingredient is Angelica root. So I will take roughly 2 pinches of Angelica root and I will put them into my little, normally I would put this into like a mortar and pestle and I would crush it up into a powder. But you can leave it just like this. And if you can't have the smoke in your house for some reason, you can always put this into a little bit of oil and put it like olive oil, or I really like grapeseed oil because grapeseed oil has virtually no smell and no flavor. So I'll put about 2 pinches, 2 or 3 pinches, depending on how much I want to make. But since I'm just doing a little bit, I'll put 2 pinches of Angelica root. I will add in 1 pinch of mugwort, and I try not to get the stems. A lot of times the mugwort you get may be a little stemmy, so I will just pick out a pinch of mugwort, and I'll do like a little bit of mugwort. I'm going to put in a little bit more, but I usually do about 1 pinch of mugwort. For some reason there's a feather in my mugwort. That's interesting. Okay, and I'll kind of mix that in. Whoops. Then I will add a pinch of patchouli. Now patchouli, super earthy. I love the smell of patchouli myself, but my husband, who is extremely sensitive to smells, is just overwhelmed by patchouli. So I have to be very careful when I do this one. So again, that's Angelica root, 2 pinches, pinch of mugwort, a pinch of patchouli, and then I also like to add some dragon's blood resin. I'll put like maybe a few of the little tears, or I'll add like a couple of the big tears. Let me get it out here. So dragon's blood I really, really love, and I use it in a lot of things, but it's very well known for its protective qualities, but also its abilities for spirit work, so I think it's perfect for this. Another one that I like to add is frankincense, because frankincense also is known for protective qualities. Now, I will tell you, when you're crushing up the resins, they get kind of gummy. So be prepared for that. So I will only put in like 2 little tears. Some people just leave it as it is and just burn it, like I said, in an oil burner or in like a potpourri pot. If you have a potpourri pot, you put water in it, you just add the herbs. The thing about the oil in the potpourri pots is that they get kind of funky after time, so you have to throw it out. If it's powdered, you can just drop it on the charcoals. You can even make some of this and powder it and then add that to the oil, and you know, that way you still have a little bit, but then when you get rid of the oil, you still have some of this. Now, not that I'm recommending this or anything, because I really do think that, you know, smoking is a bad habit. I think it's bad for your lungs. Smoking anything is bad for your lungs because it brings tar into your lungs. That's why smoking is bad. But if you happen to inhale a little of the fumes from the incense, you know, it's definitely going to increase the potency of this. I've heard of people taking mugwort and marshmallow root and Angelica and putting it into herbal cigarettes. You can do that. You can buy the empty cigarette casings. If you want a more powerful approach and you're not opposed to smoking, that might be the way to go. I probably wouldn't recommend adding in the resins if that's the case, but I really honestly don't know what the effects of smoking frankincense would do. They burn it in the churches, in the Catholic Church. Frankincense is the incense that they use in the church. So if you've ever had a priest that's really felt that you needed a little bit of smoking, you've probably inhaled frankincense smoke at some point in time. So I don't know that it would necessarily be any worse for you, but I honestly don't know the effects. But basically, I will take this and I'll crush it up in my pestle until it's a very fine powder. And then I will burn it over charcoal, and I use that especially in a small space. I'll be close to it, or I like to have it close to me because I do like to actually inhale some of the scent, at least because it helps to increase the vibration of the spiritual work that I'm doing. So that is basically it. Another thing you can do is you can put this into like a small pouch. I'm in the process of sewing up a little ditty here. So you can, sew it into a bag and carry it with you to keep that spiritual vibration close to you. There's a lot of ways that you can utilize this, but I really like to use it as a loose incense. So I would crush this up in my pestle till it was a very, very fine powder. And then I would put it in a jar and I sprinkle it on charcoal. That's really all I have to offer for today. Angelica is a remarkable root, so check it out, do some research, and give it a try in your own work. Thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.